Mike Rubinelli.
How are you?
It feels like it's high time for a catch up between us. It's
It's been a little bit, huh?
yeah, there's just been so much going on as well. It's been such
Yeah.
a fast moving kind of arena, especially with Wax Studios and everything that's
Yeah.
going on, and with this game as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, should we summarize kind of the developments, the recent developments with Blockchain Brawlers? Such a fascinating game. We love it. We absolutely love it. For the benefit of those who are not up to date with things with Blockchain Brawlers and, you know, are kind of maybe just watching casually from the outside, what's been going on recently with Blockchain Brawlers?
Yeah, let's start at the very beginning. And let's do a kind of a 60-second plus kind of, you know, recap of where we've been versus where we are versus where we're going.
Yeah.
So so Wax wasn't in blockchain gaming at all back in November of last year, but saw this craze around pay to earn gaming, P2E, or play and earn gaming, and said we need to be in that. We think gaming drives a lot of adoption of technologies and business models and so forth. Free to play was a very similar analog that they mapped to it, to the Web3 space. And so we started building Blockchain Brawlers as this kind of collection-driven game utility tied to a mining economy, which was very kind of similar to, you know, Farmer's World and Alien Worlds and a lot of games. Axie Infinity, very similar in that regard. And so we felt like we were right there at the wave, but by the time our game came out, the wave had already crested. And we knew that to get broad adoption, we couldn't just have a click mining game. We had to build a real game, but we thought, well, let's let players mine a currency. So we very intentionally set out and said, let's do a mining phase where all the in-game currency can be mined by the players over a locked period of time. Yeah. It's not infinite. It's not always inflationary. It's limited. It's limited to 1 billion tokens. And once that billion tokens have been mined by the players, there will be no more tokens to be mined. So inflationary until we hit the cap, and then there's no more tokens to be mined. Now it's going to go deflationary the other way. And so we're through the mining phase. That was kind of part one of a 3-part journey to go live on a real game. And right now we're entering what's called the crafting phase. So everything you need to play the PvP game now is being crafted by players, which is really, really interesting. And it's not that all players can craft, it's only a few players can craft. And the reason why that's so important is if you look at other games, like if everybody can craft assets that are needed to be played with, whether it's farming or it's fighting or whatever, you're effectively saying, the only way that model works is if you feed a bunch of people into that pyramid, right? And those people will buy the thing that everybody who's already in the game is crafting, right? And it's this hand-me-down economy. And so that won't work, that won't sustain. And that's why every single project that's based like that, which is almost all of them, are collapsing and they're not working. So what we said is, look, we're gonna have a game that has hundreds of thousands of players at some point because we're gonna build a game that's really fun to play. So let's start with that premise. But the number of people that can craft assets for those hundreds of thousands of players to buy and use and sell and trade and whatnot is only about 1,000 players. So it's this very different kind of business model that we put forth. And again, the Brawl-o-seum, which is what our land is called the Brawl-o-seum, or our crafting pass, our crafting membership, is all done around this thing called the Brawl-o-seum, which is the most beautiful NFT I've ever seen. It's a ton of fun. There's lots of animations and inside jokes. It's really, really well produced. And it's expensive, but it's super powerful. And basically what we're saying to the player is, you are the producers or you're the developers. It's almost like, it's a good model I can share with your audience. It's almost like a franchising model. Like you don't own Taco Bell, but you can own a Taco Bell, or you can own your McDonald's. And you're not McDonald's, but you can own a piece of McDonald's and sell hamburgers and so forth and so on. Not everybody owns McDonald's. Only a few people own a McDonald's, right? And so that franchising model is what our crafting passes do, our Brawl-o-seums do. And that's about to go live, you know, any day now. And they'll be selling assets for the PvP game. And then kind of late September, early October, the PvP game is going to come out. And it's a ton of fun to play. We had a closed beta a couple of weeks ago. Massive, massive success in terms of player kind of sentiment. And, you know, I played it myself. I mean, it's only 40% complete and people like 95% approval rating. Like people were over the moon excited. So we know that we're building something special. We know we're trying to change the world. And we'd love kind of to talk about it with anybody who wants to hear about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like to mention the play and own concept that has, you know, recently kind of come to fruition in the NFT space, especially with this particular game, Blockchain Brawlers. Play and own. What does that exactly mean for the player?
it really is about managing expectations and shifting the focus, right? So we think that the future of Web3 gaming, first of all, will be based in gaming. Like Web3 will be an afterthought. Well, of course you own your assets. Can you imagine spending what did the gamers spend in 2021? They spent $171.8 billion. They didn't own a single thing.
Yeah.
Like literally all that money went like, you know, today's crypto gamers like, when's the ROI and when Lambo and how am I going to be profitable? Like, guess what? There's 3 billion people in the world who play games and don't think for 1 second they have the right to own anything that they pay for, but they pay a lot of money and they play for a long time, yet they own nothing. They can't take it out of the game. They can't sell it on a secondary market. If they do, they risk their account getting banned, or they risk kind of all kinds of bad things happening. Like, it's such a natural thing for players to want to do. They want to own their stuff, right? So the focus should be on ownership. The focus shouldn't be on earning. Like, earning should be a result, not a goal. If the goal is to earn, then your focus is all wrong. But if the result is earning or is revenue tied to things you've acquired, that's a much healthier proposition to kind of put forth. And that's really how you're going to get broad adoption. Because when it's all about ownership, then really you're going to get game companies that are going to build things that are really fun experiences with assets you want to own, not a focus on kind of, you know, when can I retire based off this game, which has never, ever been realistic.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about the closed beta session that you had and the feedback from the community. Could you just touch on that? You know, it was a closed beta session of what exactly, and what kind of feedback did you get from the community about that?
Yeah, Max, it's a great question. And we're very intentional when we wanted to go out and get a signal, because when you kind of live inside your own echo chamber, you don't know if what you're building is any good or not. Like, you think that it is, but of course you do, because you're building it. These are your creative choices. These are your development decisions. These are your design ideals, right? And you're like, oh yeah, it's my baby is beautiful.
Yes.
But everybody thinks your baby may be beautiful, right? Like, sometimes you have to tell somebody, yeah, your baby's ugly. So we didn't know if our baby was ugly or not. So what we wanted to do is very simple. You know, before I get into that, it's like, so Shigeru Miyamoto, who's probably the most famous game designer in the entire history of the world, right? It's Donkey Kong and Mario Brothers and Zelda and everything worth playing on Nintendo, including the design of the GameCube, the design of the Wii. That was all Miyamoto's brainchild. Like, he is literally the godfather of video game design. He's the best.
Yeah.
He said that he builds games, especially, like, it was really noticeable when he first did Super Mario Brothers, which was his real kind of, coming out part. He said, I built it with all gray blocks. Like, the world was serious, gray blocks. He wasn't there a single Mario. There wasn't a Koopa Troopa, Bowser. It was all just gray blocks. And it was jumping and timing puzzles. He said, look, if I can make this really fun and compelling to do end to end with just, grayscale artwork, he said, when I throw in the art, home run, right?
Yeah.
So we took a similar kind of minimalistic approach where we built Blockchain Brawlers, but we just focused on the PvP card game, right? Which is the core of the experience. We said, is this card game fun to play? That was the one thing we wanted to understand. The next thing we wanted to know is, was it easy to understand the rules? And 3 is kind of, is this something that people, that would tell their friends about? Meaning, is this good enough that you would stake your personal reputation to your buddies? Like, the players we had were fairly self-interested. They're investors in the project and they're gamers. And so we think there's maybe a little bit of selection bias, but would you put your reputation on the line to tell your buddies, hey, come play this with me? Yeah. So there was all these things that we wanted to get a signal around. Was that core concept enjoyable? Yeah. If the core concept was enjoyable, we knew we could add art, polish, spectacle, all these visual fireworks. Yeah. We could make it seem like this really large and live thing. But if the core of what you want to do wasn't any fun, then we had lost. And so we put out this closed beta with the intention of just understanding if you could learn how to play the card game, you liked it, and you would tell your friends about it. And that was just a resounding yes. It was kind of 95%, I love the game. 92% I would tell my friends about it. And then 89% said, I found it strategically interesting and challenging. Yeah. And so kind of every mark that we wanted to hit, we did in a big way. We were kind of hoping for 70% plus approval rates, because that's pretty good, 7 out of 10 for something so minimalistic. Yeah. But yeah, we got a resounding kind of, A plus, rating from the players. So we were really kind of encouraged to continue to go down and trust our instincts and build games that are great to play, which is something we've done for a long time. Yeah, yeah. And that was without all the frills as well, because without all the frills, right? I played it myself. It was just like, it's just you
another guy playing cards, and it was super fun.
That's all it was,
Really
right?
enjoyed the game,
Oh,
and I
I'm
did
glad you loved
recommend. I did talk to friends about it.
Oh, great.
And yeah, absolutely. And I can't wait to see the full version of it coming out as well.
Yeah, well, the good news for you, Max, is on the 20th of September, we're going to run an open beta where same idea of you don't need to have a wallet, right? You can just download the client from Steam, and now anybody can play. Like before, we limited it to certain, members of the press, people we like from the community, golden or pink battle tag holders, Brawl-o-seum owners, and on and on and on.
Yeah,
it was limited to a couple hundred people, but now we're going to try to open up to 300 people, 400 people, maybe even a couple thousand people if we can, gin up the interest.
yeah.
So if you want to tell your friends to come and play, go ahead. It will be even better, even more polished, more assets, more bells, more whistles. Still a little bit limited. It's not the full launch, but it represents that progression towards the full launch. So the community can see we're almost there. We're getting very close, and get them continuing to kind of want more and want more and want more. So we're breadcrumbing our way to the full launch of the game.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting. And you touched on the Brawl-o-seum there. Brawl-o-seum is something that took me a while to get my head around, and I finally did get my head around it recently. But could you possibly explain what is the Brawl-o-seum, first of all? I know you just touched on it before, the crafting and everything, but just in very simple terms for anyone who's kind of joining and not so familiar with the world. What is the Brawloseum, Mike?
I apologize. Sometimes I speak as if everything that I know in my head is very well understood by everybody else, and I know that it's not. Because as my wife will tell you, inside between my ears is maybe not a place that a lot of people care to spend time. It's chaotic and it's kind of always on at 11, if you will. The Brawl-o-seum is simply this. So a great story. So we had a player say to us back in May, he said, gee, if I could somehow, if the PvP game is coming out, and if there's really going to be wrestling moves in there, I would love it if I could just craft finishing moves all day long. I would do nothing but just craft finishing move after finishing move after finishing move. And to me, a light bulb went off. We know players love crafting things in general because it's been in gaming forever and a day. Like people love to craft things that they can own, control, and use. We have a setup of crafting NFTs that are brawlers, crafting rings, crafting gear. So crafting is very much in our DNA. So I thought the mining phase is coming to an end. PvP game is going to launch, but it's going to launch probably 3 to 4 months after the mining phase ends. So what are they going to do in this middle section? It would be cool if we could launch a crafting feature, but we know games that allow everybody to craft fail every single time without question. But what if we launched a crafting membership or a crafting pass or crafting access via an NFT to show NFT utility, but we sold it to very few people relative to our audience size? So as an example, at its peak, we have like 14,500 accounts that have, Brawl currency in them, but we're only going to sell 1,100 crafting passes. So that's 7% of the audience have the ability to buy access to a crafting membership, if you will. That's what the Brawl-o-seum is. And there's 2 levels of the Brawl-o-seum. There's the Diamond Brawl-o-seum and the Platinum Brawl-o-seum, and they allow different levels of crafting and whatnot. But it's basically access to the crafting game is what the Brawl-o-seum NFT does. And what's really, really cool about it and how it works is this way, is that you will spend, as a Brawl-o-seum owner, if you happen to own a Brawl-o-seum, you will spend a certain amount of Brawl, very little, like 10 Brawl, which is what? Which is 5 cents. And you'll pull the lever on the machine and it will craft a pack. It's a pack that you now own, that you can now sell to another player in the game if you want to. And you can sell it via a secondary market. And what we've done with Blockchain Brawlers is we've actually embedded a secondary market inside of our game. So in the old days of Wax games and even Blockchain Brawlers, if you wanted to sell something or buy something, you'd have to leave the game. You'd have to go to Atomic Hub or an FT Blocks or an FT Hive or some of these other great kind of markets that exist on Wax. But what we did is we built what's called the viral marketplace, and we embedded that inside of Blockchain Brawlers. So you're a Brawl-o-seum owner, you spend a little bit of Brawl, you craft a pack. Now you may want to open it to see what's inside because we all love to open what we build. And you can either sell the pack or you can sell the contents of the pack directly in the game in our own secondary market. And you can sell it for Brawl as a settlement currency, which all the players already own Brawl. And so we've made this nice, really native experience for players like, oh, I don't own a Brawl-o-seum, but I want to play the PvP game. How do I get the PvP assets? How do I get the deck? How do I get the moves? How do I get the taunts? How do I get the finishers? How do I get all these things? Oh, you buy them from players. What players do I buy them from? You buy them from Brawl-o-seum owners. Oh, they have them by default. No, they craft them. Oh, do they craft them the same every time? No, like there's randomness, there's rarities, there's risk, there's reward, there's all these things that the Brawl-o-seum owner gets to do and choose. And so it's a really great and clever system. What we did is we want to take crafting and totally innovate in the space and give players a lot of choices tied to risk reward, you know, kind of different paths, different lanes to go down and stay in or veer out of that have different returns for their time and their energy and their investment and their risk profile. And so that's really what it is. If you own a Brawl-o-seum, you're going to craft assets that every single player in the world needs to play our game.
Yeah.
So these Brawl-o-seum owners really are gatekeepers. And like Wax isn't, we're not selling the card packs. We're not selling, you know, these moves necessarily. We need the players to be the ones to be the producers to sell it. Like, well, how do we get paid? Well, we clip the ticket every single time an NFT gets sold. And so we think that model at scale will be really, really good for us and really, really good for the world of gaming.
Yeah, and the community as well, right? Will be empowered by these choices as
100%.
well.
We actually, you know, it's really funny, Max. I know we talked about this last time a little bit, but we really do need the players to be successful. Like, we only make money when they make money because we're getting a VIG of every single transaction.
Yeah.
So if they underprice it or way overprice it or don't produce enough or keep it all to themselves and don't sell any, then we're kind of in a tough spot. Like, we need them to kind of, you know, be prolific and put a lot of content into the market to be sold. And so the things that we do as developers and publishers is we monitor the inventory levels and we monitor the output. We monitor pricing, we monitor behaviors, and we understand what those markets are. So when we live operate the product, we can adjust things that make sure that they're going to be successful. So we really are kind of, you know, linked at the hip, so to speak, in terms of, you know, we need them to win. So therefore we're going to help them win. Yeah,
absolutely. I remember last time we spoke also about bringing the traditional gamers into the NFT world. And, you know, what are your plans to continue that kind of onboarding process?
Yeah, there's three buckets that we're going to, there's three buckets of players that we look at, right? From kind of easy, medium, and hard, if you will. So easy is, I'm an existing Wax fan or Wax Cloud wallet holder or Anchor wallet holder. Like, I know all about Wax. I have Wax P, you've got me.
Yeah.
I don't play Blockchain Brawlers, but I'm already in the Wax world. Okay, great. Well, just come on in and sign in with your Wax Cloud wallet. You can start playing. And all you need to do is use Wax P and go to Alcor and buy some Brawl, and then you can play. Once you have Brawl, you can buy things in the market. Like, that's easy, right? That's an easy conversion.
Yeah.
Second bucket is, I'm a crypto gamer, but I'm on Ethereum or on a layer 2, or I don't really play anything on Wax. You know, how do we speak to those people? Like, I know how to buy cryptocurrency, which is not easy. I know how to open a wallet, which is also not always easy. It's easy on Wax, but, you know, a MetaMask wallet's not easy. But they've done that. Okay, great. A little bit less friction there, but still friction because they're not on Wax. We have to talk to them about bridges. We have to talk to them about kind of utility on Wax, but liquidity on their marketplace of choice, whether it's Solana or Magic Eden or, you know, Fractal or OpenSea or what have you. So that's bucket number 2, which is kind of the next step. So we'll start with Wax players. Then we have bridges to Ethereum, and we're working on bridges to other protocols. So that's kind of bucket 2, which will be within the next kind of 2 to 3 weeks. You'll see us start to talk about selling Brawloseums to Ethereum players. Yeah. And then there's that third bucket, that mystical unicorn of a bucket full of 3 billion gamers. Okay? We've got free time, but we're not going to come spend any time with you unless your game is great. Yeah. Like, if you want to replace a game in my gaming rotation, you have to give me a better consumer experience. Yeah. And so we think we actually have that paradigm that exists. We think we have a great game to play. We always lead with, you know, entertainment, right? Economy is secondary, which it's like nails on chalkboard for our current kind of owners. Like, no, it's all got to be about profit first. I'm like, dude, if we focus on profit only, I'm telling you, that's a road to nowhere. We're going to focus on entertainment, and we know that works. Yeah. So we have a game, as you know now, that's really, really enjoyable to play. So we can go in earnest and be objectively honest with this group of core gamers. Say, give us a try, right? Come on in, give us a try. There'll be this whole free to try kind of ramp for that. Yeah. Come in, set up a guest account, try it out. I was like, whoa, this is really cool. This is really fun. How do, you know, and great. We'll let you do that for a limited amount of time, right? Yeah. We'll let you play 5, 10, 12, 15 times or 3 times, like whatever that is. We'll figure out how to optimize how much they can play for free. Yeah. And we want them to really, really love it. It's like, now, if you want to play the full game, or if you want to play with the big boys, or if you want to own your assets, it's real simple. Click this button, we'll open a wax cloud wallet for you. I don't know anything about opening a wallet. Well, simple. It's you use OAuth, right? So do you have Discord ID? Do you have Facebook Connect? Do you have, Google Auth? Like, if you have these things, just click those single sign-ons that you've done in other applications throughout your life. Boom, here's your wax cloud wallet. Oh, great, I got a wallet. What do I do with it? Well, you just put your NFTs in there. Oh, I've never done that before. Oh, it's real simple. This is how that works. So really kind of stepping them through in this frictionless, really intuitive way, but showing them the reason and the motivation for taking those steps is what's most important. What is the timing of this free to try, free to play kind of model? It's a little bit to be determined. I would love to say, and I'd love to commit to that kind of November 1st at the latest. We have this free to play funnel that works really, really well, and we can optimize around conversion rates. But I don't know that's kind of in my mind. I'm thinking kind of a month post launch, free to try will be live and be something that will then start to acquire free to play players. Like, we'll be competing with every single browser game, every single free app, every single everything free to play app. We're competing for those same users. And so
that's really cool. So there'll be like a free version of the game as well available.
Yeah.
Kind of like a demo or?
Yeah, well, like, how you come in now and it says Anchor Wallet or Wax Wallet to set up your account. We'll have login as guests, right? We'll give you some generic guests, 0834724 kind of thing. Like, okay, good, I've got a guest account. And we're like, welcome to, Blockchain Brawlers PvP, feature, designed by Richard Garfield. Would you like to play the game? I'd love to. Great. Sit through this tutorial. It'll take you 2 minutes. So we teach you the game. And then they can enter a room, which is like this exhibition mode where they can play other players if they're there on time and there's synchronous play. But if they don't, we'll put them up against a bot, right? Because there's no harm, no foul playing a bot that's somewhat intelligent. They'll have a good experience and they can try it out, and we'll keep track of how many times they played. Like I said, we may limit it to 5 plays a day, or we may limit it to unlimited plays a day. Just at some point, we'll make it, really kind of not a degraded experience, but we'll put incentives in front of them. Like, dude, you can do this all day long, but you're not progressing. You don't own anything. You're not moving. We'll give them probably ugly cards, and we'll give them, ugly card backs, and we'll give them moves that aren't very exciting. And they're like, oh, I'm so tired. Everything's so boring. Like, right. Don't play the vanilla account, play the real account. Like, so we'll have those funnels optimized, and we'll figure out kind of where they're falling out or what's working, and then we'll double down on those things. So yeah, there will be a free to try area, but it'll feel very similar, but it'll be like, you see the Autobahn and cars doing 180 the whole way, and you're on this access road and you're going like 40 miles an hour. Right? Yeah. And you're like, wow, I want to go where all the supercars are. Right. Well, you can, there's an on-ramp for you. You just got to click it. Like, oh, okay. So 100%. It won't be for everybody, we know that, but we'll make it really attractive, and we'll optimize around converting those players, because that's how this game really wins and grows at scale. There's only 40 million crypto gamers in the world, but there's 3 billion core gamers, and that's who we want to target. But that's the hardest, most kind of long lead, tech/feature that we're building. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's very exciting what you guys are working on. And, I noticed that you did the summer block party recently, which was like a community event, where you gave away prizes and whatnot, and also some sneak previews of things.
Oh, yeah.
A few things caught my eye. And I saw there's a PvP combat coming soon. There's like footage, a 3D model of Barry Greenhorn, one of the stars of Blockchain Brawlers. That looked very cool. What was that sort of hinting at, and what is beyond the Richard Garfield designed card game which you guys have, are about to launch?
Let me just start with the funny thing is that, we spent, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in pricing, right? And normally when a developer or a publisher spends that much money on prizes, they're trying to figure out how to drive user acquisition. Like, if I spend 50,000 in promotional campaigns like a block party, am I getting 50,000 users? Am I getting 25,000 users? Am I getting 10,000 users? If I get 10,000 users at 50,000, cost acquisition is $5 a piece. Okay. But if the LTV is $12, and that makes sense. Like, that's typically the exercise that most publishing developers go through, like 99.5% of the time. We said, we want to spend all this money and give away all these prizes and not expect a single new player to come in, because what are they coming into? There's nothing to do.
Yeah.
So really, it was this huge thank you, right, to the community. Yeah. Here's a chance to win Brawl-o-seum. Here's a chance to win Legendary Brawlers. Here's a chance to win limited, swag kits. Like, it really was a kind of a fan appreciation, if you will, for the entire month of August.
Yeah.
And yet a little bit of teasing the future, what's going on. So the thing that you saw with Barry and the model and the things of that nature is, so in the card game that you played in the open beta or in the closed beta,
Yeah.
like you had a hand and you won or lost. And if you won or lost in the final game, depending on how much damage you do, you'll be able to do moves that are inflicted onto your opponent. You'll see in 3D in real time.
Ah.
Now, when you're playing the card game and you're not doing damage, the wrestlers themselves will be fidgeting and idling and headlocks and, you know, light punches against each other. But when you do a move and does 3 points of damage, maybe you're coming in doing, you know, like a corkscrew, you know, uppercut, and you're just crushing the guy, and his head goes back, it pops off his head and it spins around. Like there's all this unbelievably zany stuff that you can do to the player in the PvP card game if you win a hand or if you lose a hand, right? And the more damage you do, the higher impact the move can be. The higher the impact the move can be, the higher legendary it needs to be to do that. And so as an example, we have this move. It's a legendary attack. There's three. You can do an attack, you can do a taunt, you can do a finisher. There's this legendary attack called Steel Justice, which you're literally taking out a steel chair and you're crushing somebody over the head. But in your head-to-head play, you have to have a hand that does 6 points of damage, right? So if you know what I mean with the 6 points of damage in the card game. So if you do 6 points of damage in the card game on a hand, right, which means your power meter was 3, you bet 2, so 3 times 2 is 6 points of damage. You whip out that Steel Justice chair and you crack the guy over the head, you split his head wide open. There's all kinds of great stuff. But here's the catch, and here's where it all hangs together. Well, where do you get the Steel Justice move? It's a legendary move. Oh, you have to buy it from the secondary market. Well, where's it? Who supplies the secondary market? The Brawl-o-seum owners do. Well, why do they? Well, they're crafting the moves. Oh, that's right. So see how this all comes back to content creation. So the coolest thing that I want to do is crack you over the head with a chair, but I don't have that move. But you as a Brawl-o-seum owner, you have bits and pieces of that move. Now I'm collecting, crafting, combining, and then laddering up. And at some point, hopefully I unlock the steel chair that now goes into my loadout. And now I want to play with it because it's so unbelievably cool to crack somebody's head open. And because you know it's a rare move, you can't wait to use it. Your opponent knows it's a rare move. He doesn't want it used on him. There's all this digital flexing going on, and all these systems tie together.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're like, oh, the cool cards, the cards that animate, the foil cards, the cool moves, the cool taunts. Like we put in a teabag taunt the other day. Like it's going to be an epic taunt. You don't get it by default. You have to craft your way up to it, or you have to go buy it on the secondary market. We're not selling it, the players are. And which players? The Brawl-o-seum players are selling all the moves, all the taunts, all the finishers. The finishers will look very familiar to people. You know, we have analogs for the Stone Cold Stun and the People's Elbow and the Pedigree and the RKO and the Sleeper Hold and all these things. Like, oh my God, I love those moves. Right. You have to go get them from the Brawl-o-seum owners.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So now you start to see how this vision comes together.
Yeah.
So the Blockchain Brawlers PvP feature is very much an esport, right? It's, are you a better card player than I am? Straight up. It's not botting. It's not pay to win. It's not any of those things. But, you know, we do have a crowd that's very pay to win sensitive. And they're like, my credit card is better than your credit card, and I can prove it.
Yeah.
We are contemplating a mode that takes that into consideration. Not the card game. It's a completely different gameplay mode, right? Think Royal Rumble. Think things like that of like, oh, I enter my gladiator into competition. It's last man standing. How does that work? What does that look like? And so we are probably 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks away from announcing something around that. And when that announcement comes out, I think everybody's going to lose their mind. And again, you know, when you fight in this other mode, there'll be power-ups that you can have, things that up your crit rate or your HP or your evasiveness or whatever. Well, where are they going to get these power-ups? Are they just going to be able to buy them off the store? No, the Brawl-o-seum owners are going to craft them.
Yeah.
Again, all back to the Brawl-o-seum, all back to the producer model. And not everybody can be a Brawl-o-seum owner. Only a few people can. And so again, you've got this nice stratification of what is your role in the world? What is your impact? What is your value? It all hangs together. We built, the thing that people get wrong or don't quite understand is all these things that we've been building since day one are these foundational technologies that allow us to run really, 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 really fast in the future.
Yeah.
Right? We had to build a leaderboard system. We had to build a trading system. We had to build a crafting system. We had to build a PvP system. We had to build, you know, a streaming platform to kind of showcase content. We had to build a wallet exchange with, the centralized exchanges and decentralized exchange. We had to build an in-game marketplace as well as an in-game store. Like, there's all these things that we had to do because we tried to get out ahead of the mining curve as quickly as we could, and we missed that wave, candidly. And it was in hindsight, I probably wouldn't have launched this game until kind of end of September. If I had to do it all over again, I would have not done the mining phase. I wouldn't have done any of that.
Yeah.
I would have held it all till the whole thing was done, but we are where we are.
Well, you say in hindsight, it's an interesting one because you've learned a lot about player behavior now, and through the analytics, and you touched on it before. You've always from the very beginning been looking at how the player behavior and looking to shape the game based on that. And what's the biggest things you've learned and decided to embrace based on what you've learned?
The things that the analytics, well, there's some really interesting, painful lessons we learned early. Like we said, now that the Brawl-o-seum owners are the crafters, and that's how the new players come in, they are the gatekeepers. We had a similar mentality with the initial Scotty, Wide-Eye, Barry, Johnny, Colt, and Rusty and the Legendaries. It was like, here's the roles that each one of these NFTs will play in the ecosystem, right? Brawl creation is with the Epic and Legendaries. Gold creation is with the lower end of the market. Like, the two ends of the market need each other. What happened that we didn't anticipate is that the gold NFT drop from the lowest, cheapest possible asset in the entire game had the most value. Like $400 for a gold bar that dropped, 11% of the time. It's like, oh my God. So what happens when somebody sees one gold bar drop? Like, understand, to buy a pack to craft those things costs $350. So you spend $350, you get a Scotty Wide-Eye, you get a ring, and if you're lucky, you get an asset that drops the first time that just totally covers your investment. So of course, what do you think happens? Everybody from an analytics standpoint said, let's now just only build Scotty Wide-Eyes.
Yeah.
Because they're producing this gold at such a high level. And so what happened is the cost of the Scotty Wide-Eye went from $350 pack, which we sold in very limited numbers. We sold them very limited numbers just to get people started. 12,000 Scotty Wide-Eyes got crafted and sold for as much as $8,000 a piece. So we never anticipated that. So one lesson we learned from analytics was, if you have an exploit, they're going to find it. Then you have to clamp that exploit down. You have to plug that hole, but you have to do it in a thoughtful way. Yeah. And so we think we did it in a really thoughtful way. And now this is why this whole crafting model isn't available to everybody. It's only available to a very limited number of people. And it's not limited to a very number of people for a couple $100s. It's for a few $1,000s. Yeah. But it's a very, 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 very powerful asset. The other thing that we saw is that we could do things to create an equilibrium with the economies in terms of the gold NFT. Like, gold was like unbelievably prolific and everybody wanted it. And what happened is we didn't have enough sinks in place to remove the gold from the economy early. So gold would be sitting there and it would be building up and building up and building up, and the price would come down, 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 down. So we said, we have to increase gold utility. And so at our height in June, we literally saw a moment where of the 100% of the gold that was being generated on a daily basis, 50.2% was being used on a daily basis. So that's a healthy, more gold was getting used and was getting created. Yeah. Right. So we had that equilibrium, 50.2 to 49.8. That's a really healthy place for any kind of economy to be. Absolute parity in supply and demand. We use analytics to true up those curves. So they did meet in the middle, which is a really healthy thing to help you stabilize price and to help you do all these wonderful things. But when we saw the end of the mining phase coming, we said, okay, we put up a Brawl kind of cap counter. We knew that it was about 5 to 6 weeks out, 7 weeks out. We said, okay, let's remove the equilibrium and the sinks for the gold currency, because players are going to need gold in the mining phase and in the PvP phase and in the crafting phase. Yeah. So let's kind of let it run amok, run kind of unabated, ungoverned. So they build up this stockpile of gold. And we told them, we're going to reduce gold utility during the rest of the mining phase. We're not going to have it at that equilibrium. Sure. So we forecasted what we were going to do so they could plan accordingly. Yeah. We said, we're not going to have this equilibrium in place. We're going to, but that doesn't mean that you should sell it irresponsibly. I'm telling you, you need to stockpile it, because increased gold utility is coming with this crafting game, which I can't tell you about yet, but I'm telling you, gold utility is going to go up 10x.
Yeah.
So save and hold. So we let gold kind of run amok. And now today, as an example, you know, we published an article on how the crafting, how the Brawl-o-seum actually works. The switches you flip, the levers you pull, the dials you turn, the buttons you depress.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of gold utility there to lead to a much better kind of user experience. Well, gold today, I think, is compared to yesterday, is up like, in terms of volume, is up like 7 or 8x, like literally like 800% increase in gold volume. If you compare it to like 3 days ago, it's up like 40x. Like, we tell people to do these things. We tell them it's coming, but until we publish an article that shows it, their behavior is like, oh, you were serious. I'm like, right. And we've been serious for 6 months. And everything you said has effectively come true in one form or another. And if it hasn't come true yet, it's just because we haven't focused on it.
Yeah.
So we tell anybody, if you pay attention to what we say, nothing should be a surprise to you.
No, absolutely. Yeah. The communication has been non-stop and ongoing from you guys on this project. And you're very big on your communication with the community, which is definitely, you know, leaves no room for doubt about what's going on with the project.
Thanks. And you know what, we can always do better. The thing, I guess, that is not, it's not analytics, it's more anecdotal. Like, the community's kind of groused at me a little bit, like, gee, you're here every day, great. You release all this news in Gen Chat, but Gen Chat is so prolific. I don't have time to read 8,000 messages to find your one message. I'm like, that's fair. Like, you have all these channels. We don't necessarily use all the channels all the time consistently the same way, but we put out all these articles, and like, you guys have put out so many articles, I actually don't know where to go to find the one thing that I want. Fair criticism. So we have an FAQ on the website that's maybe not super up to date, but the point is, we don't know how people are going to go consume content and stay up to date. So it probably behooves us to write a white paper or a light paper, which we will do. I'm in the process of doing, where all the information is centralized. Here's exactly what you need to know on PvP, about the marketplace, about the Brawl-o-seum, about this, about, like, oh, okay. It will be this aggregation of all those things, and I just need to do it. It's a matter of when I get to it, not if I get to it. There's other things competing for my priority at the moment. We got an open beta going live, you know, next week. We've got the Brawl-o-seum going live next week.
The open beta
game launch is going to happen in the next few weeks. So
so
a lot of plates I'm trying to keep spinning, Max.
It's incredibly exciting, especially like the ideas that you've mentioned about the taunting, which come in kind of stream form, like taunting during a game of cards, right?
Can I tell you a funny story about taunting?
Sure.
Yeah, there's a sneaky little thing that I did. I'm not afraid to say that I was being a little bit devious, is that I put out a poll over a weekend, just generically, hey, you know that deck cards are coming out, you know that attacks are coming out, you know that taunts are coming out, you know that finishing moves are coming out. Those are the 4 categories of things that can get crafted in a Brawl-o-seum, meaning those are the 4 categories that can get upgraded to legendary. So I said to the players, I said, what is the most attractive of those 4 things to upgrade? In other words, what are you going to buy the lower end assets to combine to get the high end assets? And I wanted to do that because I wanted to set rarity of drops tied to desirability of utilization. So the players far and away, like overwhelmingly, resoundingly said, like more than 6% of them said, we only care about upgrading finishers. Great, that's going to be the least drop thing, right? I mean, it's kind of douchey of me to do, but they said, we want this the most. I said, great, I'm going to make it the hardest to get. I think that's just live operations 101. One of the lesser popular items at that time was taunting. And we have so few taunts in the game, right? We don't, like, we have 19 attacks. We've got 480 different cards, but we have very few taunts. We only have like 10 taunts, 11 taunts. So I said, okay, but that was far and away the least popular thing to upgrade. Like, people are like, I don't care about taunts. I'm never going to, so what? Tauntsy, motsy, yeah, whatever. If you sat in that open beta or that closed beta and you were in the Discord channel, there was so much smack talking, people running their mouths at one another.
Oh, absolutely.
Talking shit back and forth. So I said, at the time, I said, it feels like to me, anecdotally, not empirically, but anecdotally, you guys maybe now care more about taunting your opponent, especially if you have really humiliating taunts, like like the double bird or the tea bag or kiss my ass. They're like, oh yeah, we want to do that so bad. Like, I hate my opponent. I want to shame him. I want to humiliate him, and I want it to be streamed. I want to capture the video, and then I want to post it on my soul. Like, oh my gosh. So we
Well,
had
imagine
this,
adding that to the dynamics of a card game.
right? Exactly, right? That's
Yeah.
exactly right. So they said in a vacuum, we're not going to upgrade the taunts because we don't care. But then when they played the game, we're like, oh my God, I want to taunt you endlessly. So one step further that nobody knows about, which I'll break here on this show, is we're going to have this thing when you choose and confirm your hand, right? If
Yeah.
you choose and confirm your hand before your opponent does, then the ability to taunt resides with you. So if you're like, hurry up, let's go, like that kind of thing. But instead of saying that, you're going to taunt your opponent, right? You're going to flip them off. You're going to flex on them. You're going to do whatever you're going to do.
Yeah.
But you earn the right to taunt if you lock your hand in first.
Nice.
This little gamification of taunting, like, why can I never taunt, dude? Because you're too slow to select your cards.
That's it.
Yeah. Taunting me. And by the way, here's what's really interesting is that the crowd will respond positively or negatively to your taunt relative to whether you're the good guy or the bad guy.
Yeah.
And the more you taunt, if you're a bad guy, the more they'll just unmercifully boo you.
Yeah.
And if you're the good guy, they will just, the cheers will just become, you know, they'll graduate and they'll get better and better and bigger and more over the top with each taunt that you do.
Yeah.
And so it's this real kind of interesting notion. Like I said, it's a real game. We think about the design every minute of every day of how to make this a really engrossing, engaging experience. And when people tell me things like a better taunt doesn't matter, like cosmetics don't matter, I'll tell you that last year Epic did $5.2 billion in pure cosmetic upgrades for, you know, their community. And so you can say nobody can pay for cosmetics. I'll tell you, Riot and Epic Games have built an entire business and industry around cosmetic upgrades. So
absolutely, yeah. And with all these elements together, it seems like a very highly charged game of cards, which is, you know, going to be very, very fun and have all kinds of twists and turns, I'm sure.
Well, and Max, you know what we're going to do in the open beta? We're going to have leaderboards tied to win losses and winning streaks and all these stats. We're going to start to track. Now the stats will get reset, but that's the other thing that people like. They like to see where are they on the leaderboard.
Yeah, 100%.
Public display of power, right?
Yes.
They want the world to see how goddamn good they are. Like, they cannot wait to show you and tell you how good they are, right?
Yeah.
And that's a nice little progression that we're going to have in the open beta. We're going to see look. So every single thing that we do is going to kind of further kind of get you indoctrinated in the experience. And then at the net of all this, like I said, this is going to be an esports. So we're going to have leagues. The leagues are going to have ranking. We're going to have an ELO system. We're going to have tournaments tied to ELO systems. We're going to do all these things that, again, feel like, wow, this is just like, you know, when I play League of Legends or Dota or Clash Royale or anything that has kind of league rankings and ladders and all that stuff, you know, we're going to bring in as well. But we have to do it, you know, at the right time.
Yeah.
Like I said, this game hasn't even been in development for 9 months. Like, it's amazing what we have at this point. Like, it's way more than anybody should have. Yeah. But it's a credit to our developers and our process. Like, we are just getting started.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And my final question, actually, Mike, today is about your brawlers. So, yeah, Mr. Barry Greenhorn we've mentioned, and there's Mike Yellowbelly as well. Yeah. And they kind of, I've seen them pop up in random kind of advertisements and places, and they seem to be kind of building their own little brand almost, you know. So what has captured the imagination of the public so far with these brawlers, and what are your plans for the actual characters?
It's a great question. So it was very intentional to build the lore of the Brawlerverse, right? Yeah. And the actions of the characters drive the lore, just like the action of the talent. And like the WWE as a shell organization is just a federation run by a promoter. But what makes the WWE so great, right? It's The Rock, it's Stone Cold, it's Cena, it's Randy Orton, it's all the personalities. It's John Cena, it's Hulk Hogan, Iron Sheik. You know, it's all these people from throughout the entire history of the world. And so we said, we had two kind of things that we want to do very intentionally. One is we wanted to build and design these characters really tongue-in-cheek, very funny, very campy, very much in the vein of standard wrestling guys, like the healers, the jobbers, the baby faces and the heels. Yeah. But what we also wanted to do is we very intentionally wanted the players to be, you know, part of that lore, right? We wanted to write them in to the lore itself. And we wanted them to feel like you know, like they were managers, if you will, of the talent, so to speak. And we felt that if we could indoctrinate them into the lore, into the canon of the Brawlerverse, that would make them much more emotionally invested in what was going on. And so we went and we had to go through this whole process. First of all, do you want to be in the storylines? Second of all, do you agree to kind of, you know, allow us to use your Discord ID or Discord name or whatever we want to call you? So they had to sign all these waivers. But we do it with just a love of narrative, a love of story, making people feel more kind of invested in what's going on. Now, what happened from all of that, right, which is what you're talking about, is so we have the whole Brawlerverse kind of series of little storylines and one-off, and those are actually written by a guy who used to write for WCW and WWF character storylines. So there's real professionalism in there. But what's happened is people have come to us, community members said, I want to run the Johnny Butterfinger Twitter account. I want to run the Barry Greenhorn Twitter account. I want to run the Scotty Wide-Eye Twitter account. Can I be the official? Like, you don't have to ask us. Like, just do it. So they did it, obviously with our blessing, but they didn't need it. But they asked for it anyway. And then we started feeding content into their socials. And then their socials started feeding content back into our Brawlerverse. And it became this whole thing. They write memes and add to it. And it's this really kind of nice community-driven kind of grassroots content pipeline that's really, really compelling. And I think that the people that take the time and read into the stories, like there's really funny, thoughtful things there. And it really culminated with there's an old series in the US called Dallas, and there's this whole thing like the star who shot JR was this big murder mystery in the 80s. And we had this whole Scotty Wide-Eye, who's the massive gold producer. He was too good. So we had to kill him off, right? So we used the Brawlerverse and we used the community members to like, who killed Scotty? And is Scotty dead? Like, when's the last thing? And we did this whole crime scene SVU sort of story. And who came back was Naughty Scotty. Naughty Scotty is the rebirthing of Scotty Wide-Eye, but now doesn't earn quite as much gold. He's super angry. His persona is flipping the double bird. And he's really funny. In fact, if you look at, there's an Easter egg in the most recent build of the game. If you go to the entry of the armbar, which is now the loading screen for the homepage, in the armbar, there's a trash can. There's one sleeve of the old Scotty Wide-Eye fleece jacket is now in the trash. So the eagle-eyed perceptive fans saw, wait a minute, is that the original Scotty's jacket in the trash? Did Naughty Scotty throw that jacket in the trash and go into that bar, and is he just getting hammered? Like, there's all these things that tie together, tied to the story, and I think people appreciate it. And so, it's a very intentional thing. I'm glad you noticed. Not everybody does notice, not everybody appreciates it, but it's there for the ones who want to engage.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it was an advert for, I don't know if it was like a milk or a packet of crisps or something. But I saw, it must have been I was like, are these guys actually? I couldn't tell if it was real or not.
Right.
I think
it wasn't real, but it was meant to look real and seem real.
Okay. Because they are lovable characters, you know. So
they are lovable characters, right? And they all have rivalries with one another that are very well written. There's a lot of backstory there in terms of Mike Yellowbelly versus Scotty, Scotty versus Johnny, Johnny versus Barry, Barry versus Colt. Like, they all have beef with one another for one reason or another, you know. And so
that's it, and it's going to get the community will get really involved, and it'll only go from strength to strength. We want this to feel like a real game. We don't want this to feel like a mining exercise that's, you know, DeFi based. So it's very intentional to give them things to get excited about and lock into. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time, Mike. I cannot thank you enough for spending this time to break everything down in such detail. And we can't wait to share it with our audience, and can't wait to see this project go from strength to strength.
Thank you.
And just amazing job with the blistering kind of pace you've been moving at, and just developing things constantly. And obviously, that like you said, it's only the very beginning of what's possible with this. So
Max, and you know, we're launching the open beta on Steam in 7 days, I believe. And so we're working on a way to give everybody in the world access if you have a Steam account. And if we do, we'll send you the link and make sure that we'll have instructions for how all of your kind of listeners and viewers to get access to come in and play it. So maybe they play against you, maybe they play against me, but they get in and see what it is that we're talking about. No wallet required, no currencies required, no purchases required. Just come in and play and see if you have a good time. And that'll be a nice kind of signal for us to get from kind of, you know, your viewers to see what they think.
Absolutely. And I should have mentioned the Brawl-o-seum crafting debut is today, tomorrow.
The 21st. No, it's not coming out on Thursday. We had a
Oh,
slight
okay,
hiccup.
so 21st
We
of
had a slight
September.
hiccup in development this week. We put out an article today that showcased what a heavy lift it is. It's 11 unique screens,
Oh,
brand new.
absolutely, yeah.
It's 26 buttons, I want to say, that you can click, toggle, turn up, turn down, pull, twist, increase, decrease. It is pack craft opening, which, we've never had in game before. So there's a lot of new functionality going in, and every single crafting outcome has 5 different RNG roles on it. So there's a lot to contemplate. So it's a big lift technically, and really the set pieces are all there, but the testing is like, it's 1,000 level game design. We have to test every single level. Like there's all this stuff that we have to test and see. So instead of focusing on, let's get something out quickly just to hit a date, because we said that was the date.
Yeah.
We're going to take our time and we're going to roll it out kind of, middle of next week. A week from tomorrow it'll be live. And I assure you it'll be worth the wait.
Can't wait to see it.
Me
Well,
too.
thank you very much, Mike. Keep up the amazing work.
Thank you,
And
sir.
yeah, I look forward to next time. We'll have another catch up.
And let's be clear, there will be a next time. I can't wait to come back and get caught up with you.
Definitely. Looking forward to it, Mike.
Thank you, sir.
Take care of yourself. I'll see you very soon.
Cheers. Bye.